right, I think we're going to get started because we are timely people at Pivot Charter School. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Pivot Charter School open house, the virtual open house. While all of our staff are fully vaccinated, we thought this would be a little bit more efficient way for all of you get to know Pivot Charter Schools at first, and also a little bit safer for you and your families. So we appreciate you joining us in a virtual format today. We have some great things to share about an amazingly unique program that we provide at Pivot Charter Schools. We will have an opportunity to watch a video and hear from our students as we are watching a video. Then we will come back and do a little brief presentation after the video. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to break out into breakout rooms with our different representatives from our different campuses, so that you can ask specific questions about Pivot North Bay and Pivot San Diego and Pivot Riverside and Pivot North Valley, so that you can ask very, very specific questions of students and family members as well, to find out more about the individual campuses. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. We have been around for about 11 years. This is the first virtual open house we've ever done. So thank you again for being willing to do that. I would also like to let everyone know that we will be recording this, the general session, but not the breakout rooms whatsoever. So let's get, also, if you have questions, you can unmute yourself, but please keep yourself muted in case there's some background noise. Please, everybody, keep yourself muted unless you have a specific question. You can ask questions by putting them into the chat function or by raising your hand. And I have friends out there right now who are watching that because I'm watching other things. If we have people who have questions to ask, and if you feel like it, you can unmute and just interrupt us because we're not super formal around here. We want you to understand and fully get all of the information that you want to know about Pivot Charter Schools. So please feel free to ask your questions. The more you know, the better it will be for your student. And no question is a dumb question. We say that all the time when we meet people and we share information about Pivot. There's no such thing as a dumb question. We are a unique, special program, and so there should be lots and lots and lots of questions. So we will start out with a short video because you're going to hear it from the kids and the parents themselves.
Having a choice in schools was really critical for me because I had a few bad experiences in the previous school. I wanted to find a school where I didn't have the problems I had before.
Pivot is special to me because you can come into the Resource Center and I can have friends, because homeschooling can be a very lonely process.
Before I came down here to go to Pivot, I was struggling a lot because the teachers in the traditional school, they really wouldn't help you as much. But at Pivot, at break time, the teachers interact with the students, they play frisbee golf with them.
I chose Pivot because it was something different. It was obviously a unique learning system, and that's how I learn. I don't learn like other students do. Feeling like I'm part of this small little community, it makes me feel really good about myself.
The teachers are amazing. What I love is that you can communicate with them 24/7.
They're very hands-on and they're very caring. They do have a great sense of humor as well, which makes them very relatable, and it just makes it a great experience to be around them. It's opened up so many different possibilities for me having this flexible time here. I've really seen an improvement of myself.
My name is Nathan Klickner, and I'm a proud Pivot student.
My name is Chloe Schweikert, and I'm a proud Pivot student.
My name is Nazir, and I'm a proud Pivot student.
My name is Ebony Davis, and I'm a proud Pivot student.
My name is Madison, and I'm a proud Pivot student.
I have to be honest, I get all teary-eyed when I watch that video because some of those kids have graduated and moved on, and that's our whole purpose here, is to allow kids to literally pivot their lives and move on. And seeing them just warms my heart. So, all right, I'm going to pull up a presentation and share with you some more information about Pivot Charter Schools. And I have lots of help All right. We're going to talk about who Pivot is. We are different, and I want to explain and have others explain what that really means. We're going to talk about who Pivot serves, what kind of students come to Pivot Charter School. You saw some of them, but why did they come to Pivot Charter School? What was their motivation? How does Pivot Charter School serve these students? In other words, we get all these kids and they're looking for something different, and how do we actually serve them? And then we'll go, as I mentioned earlier, we'll go into breakout rooms for Pivot Charter School North Bay, Pivot Charter School Riverside, Pivot Charter School San Diego, and Pivot Charter School North Valley. In attendance today, you should recognize them from their Pivot backgrounds, but I am Jana Gaskell. I'm the Executive Director of the 4 Pivot Charter Schools, and there are many different people here to answer questions for you, just to give you an idea, because then you know what kind of questions you can ask and of whom. We have our Chief Business Officer, we have our Director of Systems and Accountability, who deals with a lot of our curriculum, our Director of Special Education, our Director of Student Services, our Regional Director, and we have site administrators for Pivot North Bay and North Valley and San Diego and Riverside. We also have our multi-tiered system of support coordinator, and we have students and parents and several teachers with us, too many to name here, but we have many teachers that are among us as well. So who is Pivot Charter School? We've been successfully providing independent study or distance learning or hybrid learning or blended learning, whatever you want to call it, for over 11 years. It was interesting to us when everybody did have to go virtual, the many different methodologies that traditional schools had to do a hybrid program and what they called it. Because we've been doing this for a really long time. This wasn't new to us. So it was kind of interesting to see how everybody in the country, really, not just the state of California, decided that they were going to do this. But we've been doing this for a really long time. And our whole purpose in life is to provide a very small, safe learning environment with caring teachers that will support your students academically and get them where they need to go academically. The name Pivot is not by accident. It's literally because sometimes the kids come to us and they have maybe a negative attitude about school, or they had a bad experience, or they just don't like it, or they don't like being in a big traditional high school. And we want to help them pivot some of their outlook on education and academics. So who is Pivot Charter School? We like to say that we meet the students where they're at. We will assess them and remediate them and teach them how to be academically successful so that they can learn more and struggle less. We use an online curriculum, but we're not using an online curriculum so that we can become this big virtual only school. There are lots of those out there. That is not our intent. The whole reason why Pivot Charter School uses an online curriculum is so that we can individualize things for students better. When you're sitting in a class of 35 kids in a traditional high school, a teacher finds it very challenging, because I know I used to be one, to individualize things for every single student. Even if it was a class of 15, it would be hard to individualize it. So the online curriculum allows us to individualize things, and we help students become independent learners. We are also a free accredited, tuition-free public charter school, and we are essentially authorized by local public agencies like school districts and county offices of education, depending on where you are. Jenny, why don't you help me with this one?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Clopton. I'm the site administrator of North Bay. And I'm going to talk about what our student body looks like. Who do we serve? And really, the answer is we serve everybody. In my experience here at Pivot, I found that all of our students are incredibly motivated in some way. As Ms. Gaskell might have mentioned, maybe they were not feeling connected to their past school and they're really motivated to try something different. They might be wanting to try something different for a short term to see if it works for them, or they may really know that something different is what they're looking for. We have students who come to us because they're on an accelerated path. They have some really strong ties to community service, community college classes. They want to take a number of AP courses. They travel so many different ways that they're supplementing their education, and they need a more flexible schedule to allow them to do that and someone to help them navigate that. We also have a number of students who just find it difficult in a large traditional school setting, find it distracting, and they might be wonderful students and they want someone to connect with them more personally and help them shine in the environment that they're in. A number of our students have busy lives outside of school. They work, they have medical issues that they might be dealing with. They are parts of families that travel. They travel themselves for sports. So many different reasons why a student might need a schedule that's more flexible than in a traditional environment. And again, this doesn't mean that they're spending less time on school. It means that we are working with them to understand how school can fit into the busy lives they're already leading. And then we also really work with a community of students and families who are interested in homeschooling and would like some additional support for that. There are a number of wonderful homeschooling families in our community who are doing great jobs with their students, and they just want extra curriculum assistance and maybe something supplemental so their kids can socialize and experience field trips and that kind of extra to the homeschool experience. So those are the people that we serve, and basically it just looks like everybody out there for one reason or another who might be seeking something a little bit different.
Great, thank you, Jenny. And there we go. Travis.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Travis Bennett, and I'm the site administrator for Pivot North Valley. So I'm going to be talking with everybody about how Pivot serves our students. We definitely have an online curriculum, and what's nice about the online curriculum is, I would say, almost everything is utilized within the curriculum itself. So every once in a while, you might need a textbook reading, for English class or something like that, but everything is self-contained. It's easily accessible. All you need is Wi-Fi connection and a computer and a device. So we also provide diagnostic assessments for every student. We do it often. We do it every year. We're trying to find out where kids are at, because we know that students, come to us with different levels and different, areas. And so we're really trying to make sure that, we identify, where students need additional help or where they need remediation. So these diagnostic assessments give us a good tool to find out where kids are at and how can we, further, support them. One thing that Pivot Charter School does really well is we break the semester down into, we call them blocks. And we've noticed in the past that if we give students, all of their classes at one time, that there's a chance that, they're going to focus on most of them, but there's going to be that one class that they might not want to touch. And that's usually the class with the most writing in it, or they would struggle with it the most. So we've decided to kind of, force feed time management onto our students by basically saying, you got 6 weeks in this block and you're only going to be working on, 2 classes. Maybe a third one would be PE. But you're basically, no more sirens. Yeah, so it's 2 classes every 6 weeks and, 3 blocks within the semester, and students, high school students are going to finish 30 credits. And we found out that it really works, and students prefer to actually work on only a couple of, classes at a time instead of, 5 or 6 at a time. We have a tremendous support system with credentialed teachers from Pivot. Every one of us has a credential in a subject matter area. Mine's mathematics. So we've got English teachers, science teachers, history teachers. And our job, we call ourselves education coordinators. And so our job is to navigate the ship, if you will. The students, it's independent study, the students are going to be, driving the bus, and we're navigating. We're going to, try to help families come up with scheduling that would help their students, come up with, study skills. We're trying to teach them to be better, independent learners. And that's kind of our job. But we also can lean on our subject matters. We can provide, small group tutoring. We've got workshops. We've got all these options that we can provide to families. And having been a traditional classroom teacher before, when I had 35 in a classroom, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to try to meet 35 kids where they're at. And now as a teacher, my caseload is 25 to 30, and that's, through the whole day. It's not 160 kids in a day. So I have the ability to be very individualized and check in with my students, not just about their school, but their social emotional well-being as well. Our curriculum system provides a ton of grade reporting. As a parent, I think the number one frustration that I hear would be, I don't know where my kid's at. The teacher hasn't entered grades in, to the grade book or to Aries. Everything's automatic, and we have reporting that goes weekly to families, and then you have access to your child's teacher that you can check on where they're at. You can see data. You can break things down to see how much time they're spending on assessment versus instruction. So there's all these really great reports and calendaring options, and we as teachers are progress monitoring daily. We want to make sure we know exactly what the students are doing each day. We all have resource centers, and we've recently just opened back up to have students on site. And the idea of our resource center is to be supplemental to our online program. Sometimes kids learn better, but we call it eyeball to eyeball. So having kids show up and to join a small group workshop, or to get some remediation help, or maybe to take an online class or even a club. There's that being a part of something and having that socialization is something that's really important at Pivot. And I can tell you with the last year that not being able to have that, it's been amazing the last couple of weeks to have kids back on campus.
Thank you, Travis. And John. I'm trying to, there we go. Mr. Faust.
Did the
There you go.
slide change? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I am John Faust. I am the lead teacher here in Riverside for Pivot. And I'm really excited to have you guys with us talking about what I am thoroughly excited about is Pivot Charter School and what we do to help students. We have really done some deep diving as to what students need, and learned what we can do to help meet those students where they are. And part of what we've done, especially in the last year, is reevaluate how we're doing everything from the ground up to see if we can do a better job of what we're doing. And part of that has been figuring out how to create these groups for students. Online learning is sometimes lonely learning. And what we try to do is bring students together learning the same subject and give them the instruction and the support that they need to continue to grow as independent learners and through their classes. One of the things also that I truly enjoy is all of our teachers do office hours. And a lot of students sit oftentimes quietly in the classroom and don't raise their hand when they have a question, because either they're embarrassed, they don't really know how to formulate the question correctly, and they certainly don't want to embarrass themselves in front of their friends, so they just don't ask the questions. So office hours gives an opportunity for students to come in and visit with all of our, the credentialed teacher in their subject to help get a deeper understanding of what is this assignment asking me to do? How do I do this? Where do I find the information that I need to provide here? And it really gives the support and the confidence to your students to make it through their classes. There is frequent communication between your teacher or education coordinator and the family. I know that I'm speaking with my students, if not daily, it's 4 times a week. And there is communication with the families at least once a week. And we're having progress report meetings once a month. So there's really no gap between where your student is and where they should be. It's pretty laid out for you. And the classes that we offer, beyond the core curriculum, obviously, that they must get through, we provide classes in career and technical education. If your student is interested in the culinary arts, we have an opportunity for students to learn that skill. If you have a student that's interested in veterinary sciences, we have that as well. If they think they're going to be a CEO and want to learn how to run a business, we have classes in business and marketing and sales and all the aspects that you can imagine. And it really provides students with a great opportunity to learn what they want to learn. In addition to that, it's a fun place to be. One of the things that I truly love about Pivot is my very first week here, we had a cookout. We're roasting hot dogs at the end of the day and having a good time with students and learning about them and getting to know them, letting them learn who their teachers are, and just doing some things that are fun. We've had prom. We've done all sorts of different clubs. And the clubs really are student driven. If the student comes in and is excited about something, and I know in Riverside, we've at least had one attempt at a Harry Potter club. And that's just one example. But it's truly student driven and gives the students an opportunity to learn and be involved in the different things that they're truly excited about.
Great, thank you, John. Obviously, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask some questions, but these are some of the ones that we hear year after year. And it could come from the parents, it might come from the student. Will Pivot be easier than traditional school? No, not necessarily. It's still school. The student still has to do the work. They're going to get a lot of individualized support, but it's still school. I think sometimes kids, and maybe even some of us, before we got into this, thought that doing something online or doing independent study would be easier. I'll be honest, it actually requires a lot of independence or support at home, or just student commitment to wanting to turn things around, to take off in their life, and take junior college classes. Independent study can be hard, and again, that's why our teachers have such small caseloads, why they spend so much time one-on-one with your students, why we remediate and make sure that students are getting the support that they need academically, and we're filling in any gaps that they have in their academics so that they can learn more and struggle less. Will I know how I'm doing in my courses and be able to get help when I'm struggling? Literally, the thing that I love about the system, the online curriculum, we call it the system, but it's giving kids feedback every second of the day. Moms, dads, you can see what your student was doing 2 seconds ago. We can see what they were doing 2 seconds ago. They can see what they need to do on a daily basis. They can see how well they're doing, literally like that. And if they see that they didn't do well in an assessment, or you see that they didn't do well, then there are so many different ways for students to get help. And John mentioned a few of them, the office hours and our online workshops, and then just from your teacher, and they will make sure that you get the help that you need as a student. So there's a lot of resources for that. Other questions people ask is, well, how is attendance counted? It's independent study. What if my student doesn't go to the resource center? Going to the resource center has nothing to do with attendance. That is supplemental. A student is considered absent if they're not completing the work they're supposed to be doing on a daily basis. And at Pivot, that's 5 assignments for high school students and 3 for middle and elementary, meaning that is a full day's worth of attendance. So the students do have to be engaging in learning every day that the school is open. They have to open up their online curriculum, and they have to submit assignments. And that's essentially how all, not just Pivot, but all independent study attendance is measured. So that a student is absent and maybe even truant if they are not doing their assignments. So it is something that we work really closely with the kids on, and obviously with moms and dads and guardians as well. And how much does Pivot cost? Nothing. It is a tuition-free California public charter school funded in exactly the same way as all of your local traditional public schools are funded. So it's just we just do things a little bit differently. So, questions. We are going to break out into individual rooms and to be able to ask specific questions about specific sites. But are there any general questions that you want to ask right now? You can unmute yourself. No questions? I think smaller groups are better for that.
Natalie has a question. Natalie, unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I had two questions for you. Are all the teachers credentialed?
Yes, all of our teachers are credentialed. Elementary have an elementary credential, and then middle and high school have various multiple subjects as well as single subject credentials. And we have essentially a single subject credential for every core subject area on every one of our school sites. That's a good question. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, and just one more. How often is the teacher checking in with the student throughout the day?
Literally daily, hourly, minutes, it depends on the student. The teachers, as I mentioned earlier, can log in and see exactly what the student is doing. Some students need a teacher to be doing that way more frequently than other students. And then doing the follow-up with the student, hey, a text, an email, a phone call, whatever they need, to help motivate them throughout the day. Sometimes that means we need to be reaching out to parents. Sometimes that means we just need to find out where are they stuck, right? Why didn't you open up that assignment? Let's figure that out and work on that together. So that's a great question. Does anybody else want to chime in on that one? John or Travis or Craig?
Well, if no one else will bite, I will. Yes, we have an opportunity to look and see exactly where the student is and what assignment they're on. And, from experience, we kind of get an idea of where the student's going to get stuck. So if we kind of know that, we can kind of anticipate that as well. But to the question, yes, we can check in with the student frequently, identify the problems quickly, and get them the help they need right away.
And really quickly, my additional comment on your question, Natalie, is that it really can change week to week for every single student. I have some students that could be flying through curriculum and doing incredibly well with independent study and feeling comfortable and loving it. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, something happens in their life. And for a couple of weeks, they just need me to be checking in with them a couple times a day. And sometimes it's specific academic support. And sometimes it's just hey, good morning, you can do this. I'm here, let me know if you have a question. And so every single one of us needs additional help at some point, whether that's emotional or academic. And a big part of our job is being in touch with our students and families often enough to know when those times are.
Yeah, great input from both of you. I appreciate that. And the other thing is we don't wait for them to have to ask us, because the teachers are literally watching how they're doing. Melissa, you had a question. Hold on, you are muted. There we
Can
go.
you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Okay.
Yes, now we can.
Sorry. I was wondering, is there a time, is there like a deadline? You said that there's assignments due each day. Is there a certain time that they have to have everything completed by? Or is it, how does that work as far as the schedule?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So as I think it was John mentioned or Travis mentioned, we have the blocks, right? And the students are supposed to get a certain amount of courses done in those roughly 6 weeks. So the online system will roll out how many assignments the student needs to be doing and what ones on a daily basis in order to meet that deadline of completing that class within the block. Because when that block is done, we wrap it up and we move on to the next classes. Why? Because if you give a teenager, anybody preteen, more time to finish it, they're just going to take forever to finish it, right? We all know that. So we wrap it up. So as far as on a course by course basis, yes, there are deadlines, and the system determines what the student needs to do every day in order to meet those deadlines. Then on a daily basis, they just need to get them done that day. Literally. And again, most teenagers, a lot of them, not all, staying up late, playing video games. They roll out of bed at 11 o'clock because that's when their brain works better for them. So what? They just need to get them done when it's right for them. They may not be able to get a teacher to help them at 7 o'clock at night, but they can get their work done whenever they want to, whatever's going to work for your student and your family. That's the beauty of it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
There is some flexibility though with, things happen, and, having worked here for 8 years, we all know that students aren't going to be perfect. And sometimes they need a little bit of a push. Sometimes we need to pull in mom and dad, we need to pull in grandma, grandpa, whoever we can. So there might be days, or, kids get sick or families take trips. So there is flexibility. And as long as we're communicating with, the families are communicating with us, and we communicate with, the students and the families, maybe, today wasn't a good day, yeah, academically. So students have the option to, work more. They can work ahead of time. They can even work on the weekends. There's no need to stop on the weekends. They can catch back up.
Yep.
Okay.
Great
And
input.
really quickly, Melissa, within that flexibility that Travis talked about is also structure. So as Jana was saying, a student can work within a 24-hour period to get their work done. But if, for example, I'm noticing my student needs math help, I'll be saying, hi, I'm expecting you to be logging in on these days at these times to get math assistance in this workshop. So we do definitely leave the scheduling up to the student, but we also at times will require specific support.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Maria, you had a question.
Hi, yes. I'm here with my mom, Maria. She doesn't speak English, but so I actually came from a charter school in San Marcos as well, and I graduated from there. So it was really helpful for me. However, my brother, he's gonna be in there for second grade, but he has an IP. So he used to have delayed speech, but he actually improved a lot. He's doing actually really good. The thing is that he doesn't really concentrate in like a regular school. They don't have the patience for him, and I feel like he needs something, that will work for him individually. My mom just had a question if it was, if he can still be accepted even though he has an IP. Like he's been improving in everything. He's doing good.
Absolutely. We serve all students no matter what. And if they have a disability, an active IEP, and I'm going to let Tracy Williams address that a little bit more. She's our director of special ed. And then also let Robin chime in about the elementary program in Pivot San Diego. And you know what? Why don't we, that's actually a good thing. Why don't we break up into the groups right now, mainly because not everybody's elementary here, and so that we have a little more privacy here. But Tracy, could you just speak to the special ed part before we break up into groups, and we'll get ready to break up, and then you can talk literally about with the people who are on each one of your campuses that you might be interested in enrolling in, and ask very, very specific questions about what's happening on site, because I know our teachers are excited to talk to you about that, both Judy and Robin in San Marcos. So Tracy.
Hi, you guys. Yeah, we serve all students with a variety of disabilities. I always like to get in contact with parents that are bringing their students to Pivot so I can review the IEP and make sure the transition is smooth. But we have occupational therapy, we have speech and language, and then we have specialized academic instruction to support our students. That's at every site. We have school counselors, we have school psychologists. So we're just like your typical traditional resource program that supports our students' learning and their social and emotional well-being as well.
And I would love for you to go into the breakout room with Pivot San Diego and talk to Robin and Judy a little bit more about the elementary program.
Can
Yes.
I chime in really quick too? I just wanted to make a note also that for most of our IEP meetings, if we have parents for whom English is not their first language, we do have a translator present as well, because it's very important to us that the families understand everything that is being discussed in those meetings.
Siempre. So, good. All right. Well, you will get placed into your appropriate breakout room here in a second. You'll start flying in different places. I think we have everybody coming back from all of the groups. I was just wrapping things up with Northern California, suggesting that please schedule an appointment to come visit the school if you haven't visited our resource centers. Especially no one has visited our Riverside our Corona Resource Center, because it's brand spanking new. Please, all of our staff, all of our teachers are all vaccinated. You will obviously still have to wear a mask. mask and check in and have temperatures taken and all of those things. But we would love to, give you a tour, have somebody help you with the enrollment paperwork if you're interested in enrolling, or just answer and, answer any questions that you might have. Obviously, you've been to our website. You'll get an email in another day or so just thanking you for joining us. And we'll have links to our websites where you can enroll or schedule an appointment as well. So are there any last minute questions that anybody has? Of course not, because we're in a bigger group. It's human nature to not want to ask questions, but that's okay. That's why we created the small pivots that we did, to be honest with you. I didn't say that in my presentation, but I frequently do. We do try to keep our pivot charter schools very small. North Bay is our largest, but they have 3 different pods for grade levels, and it feels small because they're in these little pods. And all of our other school sites, the other 3 are about 150 students, and we do that on purpose so that kids can feel comfortable and welcomed, and we can build those personal relationships with kids and they can feel safe. So we do it on purpose. All right, well, thank you again very much, everybody, for joining us, all the wonderful staff at Pivot and our friends at Trip Peppy Smith that help us put this together. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I hope we hear from you soon. Okay? Take care of your kids, take care of your families, take care of yourselves. Good night.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.